Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
In my association with Project Group, they definitely withheld information.
The whole fleet of them, look on the ASA. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely.
Everybody, welcome back to Total Disclosure Live. Listen, I'm going to be honest. Today, right at the last second before the show, I did lose my aunt. So that was my mother's sister. So today's episode is in memory and dedicated to Kathy Ann Weidman, who was born in '68 and passed away today. 4/1. Well, she was born 4/1/68, and then was left the earth today. So unfortunately, the show must go on. There's nothing that I can do from here. So I chose to do this and stay occupied tonight and hang out with my friends and everyone in the network and who would be watching live. So tonight we're across Rumble. We'll be across Instagram, across YouTube, and I can't wait to get into tonight's conversation because we do have a huge story to break. Now, I've been given permission to talk about this story and to break it to you guys tonight. We have a couple, intro stories that we're going to get through. And then of course, don't worry, like we're not leaving it out. So just bear with us. We got a couple stories that are going to be ahead of it, but we have something very, very, very big to talk about tonight on the show. And I hope that this message gets spread far and wide because the people who are giving me and showing me this knowledge and giving me this insight, they are the real deal, like the real deal. And I've gone out on a limb, verifying and making sure that I double check everything factually. So, it's nothing Corbell that doesn't do every week on Weaponized, but let's bring in the co-host for the show, Teresa Tindo. My girl, what's going on? Listen, I hear that Dr. KirkPatrick's been making some statements. So I know we wanted to begin with that story, but I did want to say hello. How's everything going?
Yeah, great. We have a lot going on tonight. I'm
very much so.
Looking forward to the show.
And I did give you an advance copy of the story that we're gonna finish, the main event story. And when I sent it to you, I just for the audience who's gonna be tuning in later, tuning in live now across various like the 8 different platforms. What were your initial thoughts? Like what Did it stand out?
Yeah, so
To tease people a little bit. Just what were your first?
yeah. Well, last week I had talked about how I had heard that before in MUFON. I had a Marine who came to me one time and talked to me about some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And I kind of kept it close to the chest, but I did talk a little bit about it on Twitter. I was afraid it was too explosive to do on my own.
Yeah,
So I'm
so
glad
we're
we're going
gonna-
to do it together.
Yeah, we're going to do it together tonight. And we'll have various people stopping in throughout the comments and hopefully engaging. But so listen, Dr. Sean KirkPatrick, so we know he's leaving Aero. We know he's leaving Aero and he's going to a private aerospace industry. He's going to keep his clearance. This is what a lot of people do. This is this isn't a tactic we haven't seen before by someone who is in government and leaves government. Travis Taylor did it. Jay Stratton did it. These guys tend to keep their clearances, go work for private aerospace, and kind of get rich and take their basically just like take off the government suit and put on the corporate suit. So that's the military industrial complex. And that's the thing. Like it all comes down to the military industrial complex. I think that's the moral of the UFO story right now. At least in terms of tonight's show, it's a military industrial complex. And KirkPatrick did some piece, if I'm not mistaken, where he is now saying that he's debunked or found a prosaic explanation for what we would know as the Ryan Graves UFO. So the cube within a sphere, that UFO that the Navy confirmed, and Ryan Graves has been in front of Congress. I'm going to bring up the article from Forbes, but what are your first thoughts on his explanation, and can you maybe run us through what he was saying essentially?
Yeah. So right at the very last minute, last message is, there are cubes and spheres. And oh, by the way, they're Chinese spy balloons. And I think one of the articles I saw actually showed a picture, and it's a spherical balloon.
Of the Japanese guy standing in front of it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and
That's
you
but
can even
that's,
see where it's
but
got
where's the
cameras
sphere?
mounted.
I mean, where's the cube in that?
Well, that's
Like,
kind
where
of
is
what
he
I was
getting?
wondering. Is that
Right.
the internal structure that holds it? I don't know. I don't know, but that's still not those metallic spheres that we've been seeing that are documented since World War II. But yeah, that was interesting for them to say it was a Chinese spy balloon. But if that's what it is, Ty, if those are Chinese spy balloons, then why are we letting them go over? Do you remember when they let one go over the whole country, and then at the end, they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should take it down? Do you remember that?
I think it'd be hard to forget that because of the following 3 of 4 events that happened after.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to remind people what happened after?
Yeah. I mean, so this is it. What, about a year? I mean, literally almost a year ago now. Wow. It was, last February, right?
Wow. Yeah. About
around this time last year, a series of events took place where, first of all, a Chinese spy balloon was literally crossed the continental United States, starting in on the West Coast and the Pacific Ocean, coming over the continental United States and basically being allowed to drift over these very sensitive military installations. Like it was on a path. Like it took a path where it hit many sensitive installations. And this thing clearly had a payload. It was being seen by TikTokers. And that's the only reason we found out that's why they named it the Chinese spy balloon right away. And then you see, it was like a case study, if people remember, because it was how quick can they cover something up. So the first one where the TikTokers saw it and it was all over the internet, like it was a white thing, right? It clearly a balloon with a payload. And they were like, Chinese spy balloon. But then all of a sudden they start shooting things out of the sky one night after another. And this happens for almost a weekend, a whole weekend. 3 different other objects are shot out of the sky. And now not only in the history of the Canadian joint forces with the United States.
Sorry, there's snow and ice hitting my door.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in that we've never shot things down over the United States, over North America, and then in one weekend we shot down 3, and then in that month 4 objects.
And
So
did we really need a fighter to shoot down a balloon? I
No.
couldn't. I mean, most guys, I think, probably could have got it with their.
yeah, no.
target practice,
And
right?
you know what's funny is they actually missed the initial spy balloon. They missed it with like a $1 million missile. They straight up missed. So imagine being that guy who was in the fighter jet and misses one of these objects with a missile that's worth more than their salary for multiple, probably their whole career.
That's
but
what I don't get is, why, if that's just a balloon, and it was a big deal. They shot it down over the ocean. Remember that? They shot it down over the Atlantic.
yeah, so they
go
allowed
over
it. What their
whole
reasoning was.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what the
I'm
reasoning
not
was
sure.
is that they didn't want to hit any populated areas, and they shot it down over the Atlantic Ocean once it passed like the Carolinas and came off the coast on the East Coast. That's when they shot it down over water where it wouldn't be a harm to any land. That was their reasoning. But clearly they were doing counterintelligence on the balloon. Like they were doing counterintelligence. That's how the world works. But so this story is specifically involves the Ryan Gray's UFO. So like that 2017 2018 era UFO that was called the Cube Within a Sphere. And this is an article. This has way too many ads on it, clearly. But you see here, this is the picture we were talking about earlier. So can you guys see that?
Yeah, that's it right there. That's it. Oh, yeah. It's
So
on
I'm
now.
gonna bring it full. So we're trying to bring it full screen. I'm gonna try to bring it full screen. Things are being slow on my end right now, though, because I have so many tabs open. This page is just like so riddled with ads that
Okay,
like,
well, there you go.
That's
good. Yeah, you can see that. And
but yeah,
and
so that's what
people zoom in,
KirkPatrick is saying.
it has the cameras mounted on either side. You can see those there.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna get
So
rid of
that's
that because it's slowing me down. So it basically, to me, what KirkPatrick is saying in the article is that he has found a prosaic explanation for the cube within a sphere. He goes through the article, basically going through like each point and how it represents this, how it fits this prosaic explanation. And this is on his way out. So this is the story. This is like what I want to crunch it down to, right? Because I don't want to make this too serious, because it's not. It's just another guy, right, who literally is like nicknamed Dr. Evil by his colleagues, was gifted a laser shark, like a shark with a laser mounted on its head. That was a gift from his colleague on his way out of like the DOD. Like, this guy's nickname is Dr. Evil, right? No one likes him in government, right? He's very hard to deal with. He's very stuck in his ways. He paints this picture, and he's heard so much testimony from people that I know, right? Like Mario Woods, that I can confirm gave him 4 hours of testimony. There's so many people I know that have given testimony to Arrow, to Sean KirkPatrick, Dr. Sean KirkPatrick, and he continues to spout this nonsense that they have no evidence for any of this. So are we happy? Are we mad at him for this? Do we just want to see him go? Like, what is everyone thinking? I just want to see him go. I just want him gone.
Well, he's going off to make big bucks now, and I'm sure we'll see him again.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. But he's going to be going to work with I forget what company it is, but it was speculated by Ross Coulthart months and months beforehand that he had been seen as it listed a member on the board of this aerospace company or technology company, whatever it was, energy company. And KirkPatrick denied it, the DOD denied it, and the next thing you know, we got the news that KirkPatrick was in fact leaving Aero. So who do you think is going to replace him as the head of Aero? And will Aero ever be anything aside from a new Project Blue Book, in your opinion?
Well, it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how things turn out. I'm kind of waiting to, I really want to find out what Congress is going to do after their briefings last week or the week before that. I want to find out, because I think that could really drive things. I think that could really drive and really shape how things go in the future. And I'm waiting for that. We have a lot of engagement. We have a lot of people in Congress who are talking about it. Did you see where JFK Jr. mentioned it?
So I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to grab a screenshot with everything that happened. I was gonna have a lot more visuals tonight, guys, but unfortunately I don't because of the passing of my aunt. This was like I said, really last minute, and we were not expecting it. I literally got the phone call like today, and it triggered something in me, with my mother, and just I'm a little off tonight. So if anyone notices, that's why. But
I'm very sorry, Ty, and you're doing
yeah,
great.
no. Like I said, it's I'm not, but I did have a lot more visuals. But so what did the tweet say? Because RFK has been very outspoken. People polarize RFK because of his ideas, and he's very outspoken on things like climate change and things like that. He was a climate I would consider him a climate expert. I think he's a good candidate. I don't see why people are so against him.
Well, his tweet was incredible. I mean, it was really cool because obviously he's paying attention. I mean, I think all of these guys are paying attention to the UFO issue. I mean, even Tucker did a piece on it. I think everybody's paying attention to the UFO issue right now because really there's no bigger story in the history of humanity at all. Why wouldn't they be paying attention to it? But it was very cool. He tweeted, he said if he's elected president, he will release all of the UFO files and get to the bottom of the UFO truth, which that's what people want to hear.
How many times have we heard that one before, though?
I know, right? Yeah, we've heard that a bunch of times.
But he might actually have a chance.
Yeah, that's what people want to hear, though. People want it to be addressed. I don't think people like it when their candidate just kind of ignores it as if it doesn't exist. Although I can see why some people do that.
This could be big, though, in getting it onto the stage as a political topic that is talked about in debates and other forums. And if RFK is bringing it up, now we have, there's just so much, like so many other people are talking about it in government. Like, how is this not something that is a prerequisite to talk about in these national Democratic convention debates, these Republican National Convention debates? Why is it something that was, when asked to Chris Christie, still laughed at in 2023?
I know people don't like those kind of. Well, he had to wrap up his campaign. They're not in touch. They're not in touch with what people want. I think
reality.
Younger generations, we were not as absorbed in probably religion as older generations were, and people want to know the truth. And I think people feel very frustrated when they feel like the truth about our extraterrestrial origins is being withheld. And when like people like Chris Christie laugh, it reminds me of Fife Symington. after the Phoenix Lights. He made a big joke about it and put an alien up on the stage and made a big joke out of a huge experience that hundreds of people, if not thousands of people had. And it wasn't funny to them. They really wanted to know what it was they
no,
saw.
they were super pissed. They were so mad.
And rightfully so. And the media gave him a hard time. And then I think, he got caught up in other scandal and he didn't get reelected.
Yeah, he got caught in
bad PR now.
I believe.
Yeah, he was.
So like,
I think he did time actually.
Yeah, it's like who's the real loser here, Fife?
You're right. Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he comes out and he's like, "Oh, I saw it." By the way, By the way, I did see that. It's like, are you sure you're just not trying to get yourself back in good graces with someone with the very community that you smeared, a while back, and made fun of? Are you sure that's not what's happening? But whatever. Hey, all I know is our next topic is one that involves a planet that we all have so much interest in that it's been ingrained in our DNA, our genetics, our very fiber, the red planet. So, Teresa, talk to me about Mars and talk to me about ice and water.
Wow. Well, huge story from NASA, Ty. And it's really exciting. I've kind of been waiting for this my whole life.
This could change everything.
Yeah. There's water on Mars. Like, they've announced it. It's official. Actually, there were two big NASA stories this week. Water on Mars is huge. Oh, huge.
Yeah,
I've been waiting my whole life.
I'll let you take center stage.
Okay. I've been waiting my whole life to hear about water on Mars, because that literally means that we've got the ingredients for life now. It's not liquid water as far as they're saying. They're still saying it's frozen, and it's actually not in one chunk. It's frozen amongst debris and dust.
Yeah, but we can convert that we can convert that very easily to liquid water and then clean it. So that so what they're saying is they have enough there that it at one point possibly covered the entire, just like our Earth. There's enough there that it could have it could cover the whole planet with an a certain amount of water.
With a few meters of water.
So,
it's right at the equator.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's right at the equator where it's easily accessible, because that's closer. So yeah, they found water, frozen water at the equator, and if it was melted, it could cover the entire planet. And then that begs the question: was Mars a water-covered planet at some point? Was there life there? Was there a civilization there? What happened? Why is that water all tied up in ice right now? There is so much Mars, so much Mars archaeology to happen, and I think it's a huge step for Elon Musk and for NASA and for going to Mars. There's water there. That's what we need. And the other big announcement was NASA now announced, I think, 85 exoplanets. They were confirming the existence of over 85 exoplanets. And for people who don't know, an exoplanet is a planet outside of our solar system with all of the ingredients for life. And so they confirmed that they found, and each one is in a different galaxy. So there's a huge range. I just feel like they're just laying down,
What did
a
I
path.
tell you? What did I tell you? This is exactly how it was going to happen. The James Webb was initial, right?
It's like they just keep laying down a stone. Here's a stone here. There's water on Mars. Here's a stone here. There's other planets.
They're setting us up for the announcement that there's life. Because once you announce microbial life, right? We go to Mars. We get we get up piece of this rock, right, of this ice, bring it back, there's microbial life inside of it, right? Single-celled, whatever. That confirms there's life outside of our planet right there, right? Just right off the bat, now we know life can't exist off Earth, right? That opens the door to the next announcement, the easier announcement that there is intelligent life, and that I'm telling you, we are on a clock. It's all happening the way I envisioned it.
Yeah, they're paving the way. They're paving the way. They're doing one little step at a time, and then it's going to end in a big announcement. Oh, by the way, there are probably extraterrestrial or interdimensional life, and we've always known about it. It's always been here, and it created us. Grush has already said there's interdimensional intelligence. I mean, that was huge, and I feel like NASA is sort of just piecing that in for us now and reinforcing that.
And that's what I'm like everyone's like, oh, well, Grush is interdimensional. They say extraterrestrial. Well, guess what? It's most likely all of the above.
Yeah.
Like, hate to break it to you, but it's probably a mix of everything. And our story tonight, our big story, the one that we're going to break, that we are going to be the first people to talk about. And trust me, you will be hearing about what we talk about tonight on the largest platforms, I'd say, in the next month. So just remember where you heard it. I'd say, month or two. I'd say a month or two. Again, we're getting there, but this life on other planets, this is a domino that once it does fall, and if it whatever way it does fall, I think it will be some sort of like preliminary discovery that the James Webb, touches on, right? And then, we go get a sample, bring it back, microbial life confirmed, boom, right there, right? Then every conversation from there is a little bit easier. And that's just, I think we're on this ticking time clock. I think there is a clock that we've either been forced into or that we've entered into. And it's like, tell your people or we're coming. So plain and say. So why is this?
I think they're preparing society for the return. I really do. And like
we have a literal crazy, it blows my mind. Like that story, especially the one that with the goat, the cows, the red cows, and I can't wait to talk about that one.
So hang out. We're going to talk about other people who are preparing for the literal extraterrestrial return.
Yeah, and remember now I said this before. What if they know something's coming? Like, so with the Hubble, so if everybody looked at the Hubble, if you remember the hand of God or the pillars of creation, the pictures, the comparisons between the Hubble and the James Webb are so, like, the Hubble's is amazing, and then James Webb's is like, holy shit, right? Like, it's like, we thought there was a lot, but we don't even begin to understand what's actually going on in the pillars of creation until James Webb gets a good look at it. So what if they got a look at something and then they got a better look at it, and now all of a sudden, we're calculating trajectory like we would for an asteroid, like, and they figure that it's gonna, intercept us at this date that maybe people like CIA counterintelligence, John Ramirez, have talked about 2027. Lou Elizondo's talked about 2027, right? A lot of people have talked about this 5 to 7 year thing that started a couple of years ago. So, what could something be coming back, and could we be being prepared and conditioned by other announcements like the exoplanets, like enough water on Mars to sustain colonies for literal centuries? That's water that we don't have to bring there. That frees up a lot of space, a lot of storage space. People don't realize that, right? That's like straight out of alternative history show on Apple TV. Like that happened. They did that on the moon. They found water on the moon, and that's how they created their first base on the moon in this show on Apple TV. And it's so like that's what's happening on Mars right now is they're confirming ice, giant amounts.
Yeah, and it's it's going to be freshwater, and it at the equator, which is easily reachable. They're paving the way, and like we're going to talk about later, there are other people I think who are preparing. They might use a little bit different terminology, but when it comes down to it, they're talking about exactly what we're talking about. It's not crazy.
Yeah. So I want to prelim that. And I mean, because this ice, so this is a big deal. I mean, it's a story, right? The exoplanets, and I mean, we found water worlds now, but remember, like back in the 60s, the 70s, right? I forget when the first exoplanet was found, but it wasn't found until recently. So, like, there are tribes like the Dogon tribe that talked about stars like Sirius B, right? A star that we didn't discover or know about until like we had really advanced telescopes, really advanced astronomic capabilities, or astrologic. I don't know how you would say that. And they knew about it. So these ancient civilizations, like, could they have been more in tune with like a different, like we think of technology as these computers, these phones, these audio boxes, even this bottle of water is technology in some, it's technology that holds essence of life, right? A lighter holds fire, right? That's technology. So people forget technology isn't just a computer with wires and transistors. Technology is everything. So could our ancestors have been in touch with a different kind of technology, like one that you can't see and touch? And that's how they were so in tune. And who taught them that, right? Who taught them that? And did those people, is there a record of them ever saying that they'll return? Well, when we start looking in religious texts, almost every single one of them talks about A, a flood. We've talked about that before. But B, a God that comes, teaches them all this stuff, and then leaves and says, I'll be back.
Yep. They always promise to return.
Do they not always almost promise to return?
They always promise to return. And, or there were times where they were actually living amongst us. And that's really the beginnings of having royalty. The initial beginnings of royalty were the gods, the people who were kind of the intermediary between the gods and the people. And they were actually the hybrids. I mean, even Xerxes is in the Bible, and Xerxes was known as the God King. And if you look at his tomb in Iran, but you can on Google Earth, you can see that he over his tomb, there is Zoroaster, who is carved into the rock over his tomb. And for people who don't know, Zoroaster is a bearded man in a winged flying disc. And very clearly, you can see it. The people are at ground level. And then above the people is Zoroaster hanging out in his winged disc over the people. He's obviously a man who's flying over the people. And that was their God. And that goes back so far in almost every ancient religion. And like you were saying, they always promise to come back.
Quetzalcoatl, I believe, came after the flood to teach them civilization, right? Mm-hmm. But then they did consider him a deity, didn't they?
I think they did. And and he has so much in common. That's a very good example of like, he was kind of like the sky dragon,
Right.
and when they talk about these
Arrived
dragons,
one day, yeah.
what were they talking about with these dragons, these fiery sky dragons? What was that? Was that these was that some kind of craft in the air that had fire coming out of it? I mean, because dragons are pretty universal
should we take it
too.
literally, or should we take it as misinterpreted technology? I think it will always come up against that with with these stories, and not to take anything away from human ingenuity, but we have to ask ourselves the question. And I don't want to sound like I work for Ancient Aliens, but hey, while hiring, I'm free. I am free. But you have to ask yourself the question. You do. You have to. So, like, did this start in 1947? I don't think so. I don't think so. So why don't we talk about? So we know that there's a war that's going on right now in Palestine, and we know that between Palestine and Israel, more specifically Hamas, the faction of really radical Pakistani people versus all of Israel, basically, and that's going on right now. But Israel is kind of doing something that caught your eye, and I want to get into it, and we'll get into it next. All right, so talk to me about the 3 red cows.
Okay, yeah, they're called the red heifers.
Red heifers, that was it.
Yep, and they're we're talking very ancient Old Testament stuff here. When they were doing animal sacrifices. Now, it was certainly not everybody quit sacrifices. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. I think preparing for it soon. A certain part of Judaism in Israel, they bought these 3 red heifers from Texas, and they have to be perfect. They have to be all red hair, not a single white or black hair on them. They're just inspected for absolute perfect perfection. They flew them to Israel. They flew the livestock, these 3 heifers, to Israel. They're keeping them there. And the whole point of doing this, for people who don't know, because some people just really don't know much about, some people just really don't know much about, Old Testament stuff anymore. So they want to build the new temple. And what is the new temple? It needs to go in the place where the Dome of the Rock currently is. And why is that important? Well, that's important because that's where they have literally interfaced. You can look this up in their own words. They will say it is where we go to commune with God. Literally. Literally. And then that got me thinking.
So they're building. So in the midst of all that is going on, they are importing these 3 red heifers into Israel to be ready for a temple that was prophesized as the last temple, the 3rd temple.
Yes. So in order to build the new temple, they have to sacrifice these they have to sacrifice a red heifer. I think it's more than one, actually. And then they have to burn the ashes at the temple site. And that will purify the location in preparation to build the next temple. Now, these temples, inside of the temple, the core of the temple is the holiest of holies. And that's literally where, the top rabbi I can't remember who else. Only I think 2 people are allowed to enter in there, and it's where they go to interface with their words, God. Now, if we're
So
talking,
very, very religious, sacred ground.
yes, but if we're
And
saying that the gods are quite literally, by definition, extraterrestrial, it got me thinking. Well, all of these temples, we haven't had embassies for very long, right? Are these alien embassies? Is that what it is?
that could be. And so what if they are so remember we talked about something coming here, potentially returning. That's why I brought it up, right? Now, could they know? Could the Vatican, these places, so the Vatican, the Jewish high priest, could they know of something that it, like, not only does the US government know, and but it's something on its way back and they're getting ready for it.
Well, that's the thing, Ty. So, if the gods, if the
That's what it
ancient gods
sounds like.
really extraterrestrial, then it
Yeah.
wouldn't be only the government who would know. It would be ancient religions who would know too.
Well, they were
And
the first
certainly
governments.
these very, very ancient religions like Judaism, they
Yeah.
would know.
They were the
They're
first
preparing.
government. They were the people forget that religion wasn't just religion the way we see it now. Religion was everything. It was the governing body. It was law and order. It was science. It was theology. Every part of your life, there was religion touched it in some way, right? And like that's how it was for them, right? And we've gone away from that with all the distractions and the telephones and the everything like that. That's why there's a severe dip in numbers at churches, but there is been an increase in spirituality, but there's been a drop off in organized religion. That's the thing. So could something be that we considered, like, could the capital J, could Jesus, we talked about it. Was Jesus an alien? What is he?
Yeah.
He be the
And there
one
are people who
that's
say
coming?
yes. Yeah, and there are people who say yes, Jesus was an alien and he got taken back up to space.
Just
so
like Enoch.
Yes,
He was
just like
gone. He was gone for a long time.
that's right. Yeah. The Book of Enoch is incredible. If nobody's looked at that, it's incredible. He's quite literally documented his encounter with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization who has given him the equipment to write it down. It's an incredible book. You can find it on YouTube. You can read it. It's incredible. But so a lot of these other religions, a lot of religions, if you look around, they're preparing. And it's not just the Jews in Israel who are looking to build the third temple on Temple Mount. It's also the Buddhists in Thailand with their UFO temple, which is the largest religious complex in the entire world, bigger than the Vatican. They're expecting a huge crowd. And the Vatican already made comments in 2009. And the Mormons, the LDS Church, is in a mad dash to build temples all over the world. And I think they were asked, why are you building all of these temples? And they said, well, we're expecting a big crowd. They know. Yeah, you can look that up.
I don't think they meant the crowd that was that goes there and prays. I think what they were talking about was something they foresaw, right? A big crowd eventually. And because Teresa and I talked about when these UFOs, or say something is coming back and they know about it, and it's on its way, and it's just another, as of right now, it's just another UFO, right? But that day, whatever day it is, these ships would appear on Earth. And they would appear over locations such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, right? The step pyramids in South America, Stonehenge, Temple Mount, right? If they get that ready, if that's what they're getting that ready for, maybe even the Vatican, who knows? Like all these places that are that are either wonders of the world or just feats clearly built to the gods, right? To the quote unquote gods.
To the extraterrestrial gods. And there's actually a video, you've probably seen it. There's a video of a UFO that shoots up over the Temple Mount, and it's filmed from multiple directions.
Yes.
And you can see it's a bright light, and it kind of goes up, down over the Temple Mount. And then there's commentary, people are gasping, and then it just goes pew right up in the air, right over the Temple Mount.
Yeah,
and then
I guarantee if any of you have seen it, it's been in a documentary you've watched. I guarantee.
Lots of people have seen that. So I just find it very interesting that they're preparing these red heifers. They're not going to live forever. The life of a cow is, I don't know how long they live. Maybe 15 years, 20 years. Yeah.
20 years. Yeah.
I mean, they're expecting to purify Jeremiah, they're expecting to purify that site for the new temple in the next decade. That's huge.
Oh, and speaking of that, Jeremiah, thank you. I always forget to do this, but I always like to shout out the members of the channel. We're getting back up there since we relaunched the program. We're back up to 16 as I relaunched it. So please, if you can help support the show by becoming a member, please do. And to all our members already, thank you so much. You get access to ad-free content, not live ad-free content, but all the podcasts, any videos that we put out, but live streams are just, it's like monetized automatically by YouTube, so there's nothing I can do. But afterwards, it's available ad-free for you for your replay. And then after 12 months, you get a gift. So it pays for itself in about a year. You'll get something from the store, and we just thank you for it. But I want to go back to the cows because, like you said, they only have a certain lifespan. And so do you think that it would be on display, like them getting, because this would clearly be a pretty large construction project. And do you think they'd come out and say, like, we're getting this ready? Have they confirmed that yet?
Oh, it's confirmed. Yeah. Anybody can do a search for the red heifers, the third temple. Yeah, but it's going to cause a lot of chaos because there's a structure there. The Dome of the Rock is there. And that's a very holy site to the Muslims. But I think it's very telling. They're preparing for the return of God, and they're building a building for him. They're not just talking about it. Yeah, the last temple, that's right. And they're not just talking about it, they're doing. And this is going to cause a huge war. It's going to cause a huge conflict. It's going to be extremely expensive. And they have to do the animal sacrifice just right to purify the site.
Look at this bozo. He's literally just rolling around.
You have there.
So that's Bear, right? He's just a floppy boy. And that's my, you can't see my dog. Logan. Oh shit. See, they're very much opposite dogs, and they're like bouncing around and back at me right now. So
it's hard to concentrate when they're going crazy sometimes.
It really is. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, settle down over there, guys.
They want attention.
Yeah.
So I see the religions preparing too. It's not just Congress talking about the aliens and the interdimensionals. I see the religions preparing too, and not just the Jewish religion. but the LDS religion and the Catholics, the Buddhists in Thailand, like it's happening. It's happening. They're building real giant structures to these to these extraterrestrials that they think are, that they believe are coming back. And it seems like our government started to prepare us for that.
And the signs are all around us. And again, to anyone who's listening, watching, whatever, we're not here to change your minds or to to say something is true or to declare anything. But we're here for you. Go do the research. It's all around us. Like the truth it's literally right there. And you're just missing it if you're not tuned in on this. If you think this is all crazy talk, then I'm sorry, but you're actually probably the crazy one, because you're plugged into the matrix and all the distractions. And I hate to say that in like such a cliche way, like we're awoken from the matrix, like we took them. We're not. It's just we allow ourselves to see past the bullshit and gather the facts the way that they gather the facts. Because I mean, you are a former MUFON director. I'm sure you've saw your fair share of hoaxes, right? Like in this community, it's really easy to start seeing synchronicities. It's like once you go down this path, you can't stop. And then we start seeing now these past 5-6 years have been pretty insane. Ever since that 2017 New York Times article, thank God it came out because it tipped over dominoes. And I'm so glad that we're at the point where we are right now, where we can have this conversation openly with a little bit less stigma. But I think we need to, as a world, as a human species, I think we need to take a step back. Take your religion, right? Even if you're super religious, take that religion. And if you're Christian, go talk to a Muslim. My interview with Beck Lover is coming out soon. Episode 100 is coming out this Sunday. Shout out Serena DC for that episode. Episode 101 is Beck Lover. I talk about this a lot with him. Like, you're Christian. Most of these, you guys don't even understand all the commonalities between yourselves. And then you fight. And everyone needs, my opinion, everyone in the world needs to step back and take a look in and just see what we're doing. Like what there's so much stupid stuff happening. And it's, you see greed and corruption just everywhere in politics and Hollywood and every facet of society, in financial industries. It's just, I don't know. It's disheartening, but there's also the good stuff as well. There's this really, really, really positive energy that you can get from certain communities and from practicing certain things, meditating, freeing yourself from this construct of an everyday routine, unplugging yourself from this virtual matrix. I know it sounds crazy, but once you get unplugged, you feel better. You feel like you're not doomed. Because if you're worried about what Kim Kardashian is wearing to the Met Gala, I promise you have the wrong priorities. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think you really just said that.
More. Sorry.
Yeah. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready to move into the big story for the night? I think we have an exclusive here that is nobody else has done yet. I think they'll hear about it from possibly other ones, but we get to do it first.
Yeah. Let me get so I literally wrote this whole thing out. That's how important it was to me, is in getting it right. And so to preface this, I am going to play a clip. And I'm going to play a clip for a specific reason, and it's to show you something. It's to show you something that there is validity to what we're about to talk about. And it's been talked about before. And this is not the first time it's been brought up.
Obviously, these hearings have been about issues much more profound than who did what or knew what in the Iran-Contra affair. They have presented two visions of government, much as the Constitutional Convention was presented with different views of the relationship between government and its citizens 200 years ago. One vision was described in the testimony of Admiral Poindexter, Lieutenant Colonel North, General Secord, and Mr. Hakim, that of a secret government directed principally by NSC staffers accountable to not a single elected official, including apparently the President himself. A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. It is an elitist vision of government that trusts no one, not the people, not the Congress, and not the cabinet. It is a vision of a government operated by persons convinced they have a monopoly on truth. Albert Hakim, a businessman who admitted he was in it for the money, could boast to us that he was more competent to manage the Iran initiative than the Secretary of State. Richard Secord could tell us he was more capable of running intelligence activities than the CIA. Oliver North could describe with enthusiasm Director Casey's plan for a private off-the-shelf organization that would conduct covert operations forbidden to the CIA with funds generated from the sale of U.S.
I don't know what just failed there. But anyway, okay. So I don't know why that just failed to play. That's like the weirdest thing. But it got the point across. So I start with the Daniel Inouye clip. That was a Senate, and he was speaking about the Iran-Contra thing, but he had stumbled across this real shadowy government or this fraction of government. So I play that to preface what I'm about to say. So breaking news development has come across, Total Disclosure's news desk from a source who's been verified to a degree of certainty for myself. The source and others promise that more information will be coming, and the hard evidence to back it up, some of which I may or may have not seen. It's a story that I look forward to discussing. I don't look forward to discussing, but that's not the job. Through sources, I have learned about a program. This program, it's not like ATIP. It's not like OSAP. Frankly, it's like nothing I've ever heard of before. And it may confirm parts of stories that we all thought were absurd. That it couldn't be possible. It's not reality. What you're about to hear, you may not enjoy. However, we must realize that this is a reality, and reality is often scarier than fiction. Iron land on the surface, but deep inside the desert lay a program and a group of people, part of a much larger network, mind you. They have their own army, their own air force, their own navy, etc. They act confidently and swiftly to not garner the attention of the law of the society, and for all intents and purposes, they are above law and order. It is with almost absolute certainty that I tell you there exists a fractal part of our government, spawned from the military-industrial complex. They have technology that, if seen by any average citizen, would look like magic. The way they developed these technologies was from another world. Michael Herrera gave testimony at the Disclosure Project 2.0, held at the National Press Club. This event was part of Dr. Stephen Greer's effort to get part of the truth of the UFO phenomenon. It was there the world was told that a group of Marines aiding in efforts after the earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia in 2009. This group of Marines were patrolling the jungle when they found themselves surrounded. Before they knew what hit them, they were disarmed, brought to their knees, and told they would be killed or smoked if they made any movements. In the distance, Michael claims and alleges that he saw a black octagonal shaped craft being loaded with pallets through a pallet or through a mechanism that was part of the craft. It was more like a platform, and this platform would raise the trucks into the octagonal craft. It was had lights at each point, and the trucks were being loaded into this craft that was hovering and hovering stable, right? The Daily Mail did a full breakdown of this. You can find Michael's testimony. He'll be on the show next in February, so he'll tell you all about his experience. But these people that he had saw, or this military group that he had saw, he described them as having American dialects, having American accent. And when the craft took off, it raised above the tree line and jetted off to the west. And he does recount that it was, it did have lights at each point of like the octagonal point. And also on the military guys themselves, they were wearing all black uniforms, all blacked out, no insignia, no nothing. So these guys are literally, they're the best of the best. They got the drop on a group of Marines, which is very hard to do, especially one that's patrolling for security reasons at what they called hasty LZ, or landing zone. So it's a landing zone that moves. So they were doing security. They weren't unarmed, just walking around the jungle. They were, actively doing security. So that's what I find really fascinating about Michael's statements. And after that incident in 2009, Michael stayed silent for years, not knowing what or who they were being this group of people with UFOs that can blast off with no discernible means of propulsion. And what were they loading? What were they seeing? What did Michael see them loading? He considered it at the time, I believe, to be drugs. And he said that made sense to him because, that's, what these black ops teams, these shadow people do is they engage in the underground criminal market. That's how, they're, what did this Senate guy say? Their own fundraising mechanisms. Hate to tell you guys, but that's drugs and guns and all that. But let's get back to what I just kind of went off on a tangent. So after the incident in 2009, Michael stayed silent for years, not knowing what or who they were. But he surmised that what was in the crates was weaponry, advanced tech. But what he would learn later from a source who was on the receiving end of those crafts by the occupants, someone who had come out to Stephen Greer and his team, that it was not weapons. It was people, living people inside these crates. And they were using the guise of this disaster as cover. This group would take those individuals, and where would they be going? Well, they'd be transported back to that dry desert. But why? That's what I asked myself. A small fraction of humanity apparently has an ability. Gary Nolan's talked about this, that there are truths to this. We've heard about this before. There's a small fraction of humanity, and apparently, there are trends. And with some of the evidence I was given, what I can say is that it's mostly women, children, as well as some men who fit a unique part of the population. The ability that they have is absolutely fundamental. It's all about consciousness, and it always has been. Always. We know that the U.S. government and military have poured resources into studying consciousness, poured money into studying consciousness, and exploiting consciousness. Its abilities, including remote viewing, Project Stargate. There's so much evidence that it's downright absurd that these subjects remain in the fringe, but it's all kept there by the same people, using natural disasters as cover for human trafficking. It makes sense, sowing disinformation. looking for these people in third world countries, making sure that the rest of the world wouldn't come asking or knocking, assuring nobody would be asking anything. You're in a third world country. You don't have that much resource to work with, you know, hence the name. This is where the story gets a little bit weirder. And even I struggled believing it. But for the most part, these people that are taken are actually treated pretty decently, but essentially they're enslaved. The ones that are keepers, aka the small percentage that have disability or trait, are taken and used as a cog in a machine. This machine is either reverse engineered or recovered intact ET craft or advanced technology derived from it. An insider whom at the moment remains unnamed for safety sheds a bit of light on this deep black program involving psionics, where human consciousness serves as a control interface for advanced machinery, including extraterrestrial aircraft. The intricate system enables ordinary individuals, this network of people, the normals, to basically use these recruits to bypass and operate ET machinery through the psionic connections that they're able to have. So therefore, picture it like this. So basically C controls B. B controls A. Therefore, C controls A. It makes sense. The process can be fatiguing and life-threatening for these recruits. However, the program has seen advancements and they just continue. But concerns persist. Are we entering into a fight or a war that we didn't even know was possible? Didn't even know was happening? Didn't even know was real? Are they bringing these craft down after calling them in? Using protocols that are very much like the protocols of Stephen Greer. And like I said, the program has seen advancements. And what if this program were to trigger a galactic war that the rest of humanity, like I said, never knew was possible? These visitors who are being called in with a process that is widely known in the UFO community, but maybe not to the general public. This is called CE5. It's something that Dr. Stephen Greer promotes, but other groups do use it. It's called HICE in other places, but it's where someone uses their mind and basically essentially meditates and calls in an extraterrestrial vehicle. And for this purpose of the explanation, I'm going to use that as a, we're not saying they're using the same exact protocols, but something like it. So in summation, this program is taking and screening refugees for psionic potential predisposition, treating them as biological equipment. And EMP weapons research that is taking place in an unnamed location in the U.S. and it involves these assets. And black money is being funneled into these programs to allow them to keep going. And they're also from these private aerospace companies and these, private industry, right? So we can't FOIA these people. These aren't people. They are above the law, first of all, but they also, there's no way that we can't go to Lockheed, knock on the door and serve them with a FOIA request. That's why the military industrial complex was such a dangerous thing that Eisenhower warned us about. It's all very, very alarming. And again, we'll be continuing the story as it develops. And as I can show you more, I promise you I will. But I've seen things now. I've verified it through my own way and through my own sources to know that this is something that is going on. And to the level at which it's going on, I'm not so sure yet, but I mean, it is horrifying because in this situation, the people are the bad guy. We are the bad guy in the cosmos. And who would have ever thought that? We didn't even know. We don't even have a real government that's confirmed these things. And we're potentially calling them in and bringing them down with direct energy weapons only for a team to go out and retrieve the asset, right? Potentially kill this recruit who called it in, by putting so much strain on their body. And then operating the craft, they need them as well. So there's so much strain on their body that they don't survive. So it's basically just human trafficking for the betterment of their weapons and research into more military weaponry, more stuff that's going to be kept behind closed doors, your tax-paying dollars to keep it secret from you. The turning of the wheel. These are the same people sowing disinformation. It's absurd to me that this kind of thing could go on unchecked, unbalanced.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we finally get to talk about it, because I think I had mentioned last week that, I had heard from a former Marine that he had seen the discs and he had seen them loading cargo. I think you briefly had mentioned that it was people. I didn't really comment on that because it's very serious. Do you remember when Tucker Carlson, just within the month, actually, I think it was around Christmas time, when he actually did a show on the UFO subject, and he said, I just found out something it's so terrible I haven't even told my wife. Remember that? And I think this is what he was talking about. I think it's this exact story I think he was talking about. I think he found out that they have been using people who have what's essentially vril ability, right? The Nazis were working with the vril women. It's vril. It's the vril energy that some people have or they don't. And they track down the people who have it. And I think that's what Tucker Carlson was talking about when he said, it's so horrible, I can't even tell my wife. I think it's this story that we just brought to everybody right now. And when I did some Twitter spaces, and actually I think it was one of Mellow Demon's Twitter spaces, where I had brought up, oh my gosh, they did some bad things, and I just couldn't even go on to tell more. I'm glad we finally get to talk about it. And
it just makes, because we don't know where it's happening, right? We just know it's the desert. We just know it's somewhere out. We don't know where it's taking place. And, hopefully, and I think that's what Grush is talking about. I think that's what they're all getting at, is that they can't find it, let alone because you can't walk into a private corporation like that. You can't do it.
Can't be
right?
FOIA. Yeah,
can't be FOIA. So yeah, we have things like the Nevada test site, right? We know, Area 51. We know of all these places that, and you know what? As soon as Bob Lazar came out in '89, if anything was at Area 51, it wasn't there the next day, right? They are playing a shell game with the United States Congress. If when Congress finally gets around to knocking on the door of a hangar, there's going to be nothing there. These people are so tactical in what they do that it's not even funny.
Well, you're exactly right. And you know what it makes me think about? It makes me think about have you seen a lot of the new helmets that are used by the fighter pilots? I mean, they're literally going off of brainwaves. That's public knowledge. You can look it up. They're it's like you said, it's psionics. We're using brain power to fly things. And that's all of what the Nazis were into, with the vril women and the really long hair, and they were using their mind
and
like you said, call things down, and also to fly things.
Yeah, well, again, you'd think, I mean, if these people are able to call them down, I mean, they're like I said, they're called the keepers, right? I call them the keepers. And so then, I mean, who do you have to get someone to fly these things, right? Because they have to be, that's how they interface with them. is like, it's all about consciousness.
It
And
is.
we've heard this so many times that these craft are seamless. Like, if it's a true ET craft, there's no rivets, no bolts, no seams, no lines, no crevices, no nothing, right?
No
It's like,
control panel.
yeah, it's one mold, but right, like as if it was molded as one, and that's how you can tell. But there are people that are apparently predispositioned, and I think, we can relate that back to Gary Nolan, out at Stanford, and what he talks about, this percentage of people who have this certain trait, right?
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It confirms, and I know it kind of confirms like the protocols of Stephen Greer, but Stephen Greer at one point was not the person that he is now, and he did have a good heart. I think he still does have a good heart, and I think his CE5 protocols, I think there is something to them. People have had genuine sightings, with this meditation and calling in ships. Clearly, there's something to it. The government is not the government, but some sort of network of our government is somewhere in the world is exploiting it with these people, this group of people that they're taking. They're essentially abduct, and this could account for I don't know if it accounts for alien abduction scenarios. I don't know. I can't say anything about that.
Oh, wow.
But
you might be onto something there.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. Like, I literally didn't even think to ask the question until after. But I again, these people, they're probably 3 steps ahead, so to abduct people out of, but could abduction have something to do with, could the My Labs have something to do with it? These are all questions that are starting to get raised in my head.
For sure. Yeah, the My Labs, that's a very good point, because I mean, think about it. If they find, and it goes back, I think it goes back to the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. And the Holy Grail is a bloodline trait that has been passed down, since the beginning of our creation. And they're looking for that in people because it goes with the Ark of the Covenant. And what is the Ark of the Covenant? Is it really just a box that was carried around? I mean, when people got close to it, it sounds like they got radiation illness. So they know about a genetic trait, and they're looking for it in people to use it for military purposes. And that's a pretty big deal there, Ty, especially if they're going to other countries during natural disasters. And then and private contractors, there's no oversight over a private contractor, and they'll never get caught. That's it's a huge story, and it's going to be everywhere.
Yeah. And this is actually just, like I said, it's just the basics of it, right? This is just the beginning of this story. Like, there's much more to it. And I wish I could show what I've been seeing, like I wish, and now I know how that feeling is a little bit. And I never wanted to be in that situation, because I hate those people who say that. Oh, I wish I could show you, but it's stuff that would, what I mean? It was it showed to me in confidence. So, as an accredited journalist, Jeremy Corbell is right when you say this. Like, you always protect a source, even if they don't protect themselves. This source is protecting themselves. They are protecting themselves. Every source that is in this, UFO whistleblower, this sector right now. David Grush is protecting himself. Michael Herrera, like I said, is protecting himself. He's another, like I said, he's a great guy, because he can confirm at least what he saw from this group, and he's going to be on the podcast coming up, and he's going to be able to fill in some of the dots as far as his knowledge of this, his knowledge of what he saw in 2009, and I think that'll opened some people's eyes, because when I heard his testimony for the first time, I mean, my jaw was on the ground. It was literally on the ground. This guy is the real deal. And I've had hours of conversation with him now, and he's told me a story, and every single time, even though I've heard it 4 times now, 5 times now, he's been on the Sean Ryan show, right? Sean Ryan, episode 66, I believe. If people want to go watch it. Also, the link in the description for the Daily Mail article will be there. If you want to read up on Michael's testimony, so that it makes sense into to what I was saying. But like I said, this is real, guys, and this is the dark side of the UFO phenomenon. And unfortunately, with people, corruption, absolute power just corrupts absolutely. And I think we all know that statement to be true to some degree, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know what kind of oversight there could really be, Ty. I don't know if Congress could have any oversight if they don't even know which contractor is doing it or which project is funding it. There's so much black money. Remember the day before 9/11 when Rumsfeld, maybe you've seen,
you said we're missing $1 trillion or whatever.
Yeah,
no, I don't think it was $1 trillion, but it was a lot.
Yeah, $1 billion, $1 trillion, and we don't know where it's at, and they can't even trace it. So I don't know if there's any hope for any oversight for any of these things. But when do we get the
weird part of that? Weird part of that story is that 9/11, and I'm not like a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, but the part of the Pentagon that got hit was the records where all those missing money records were. Apparently, I don't know if that's true. But many people have said it that I trust. So I don't know if it's 100% true, but people I've trusted have said it, like people in documentaries and stuff like that. So, I mean, if they're all saying it without a source, I'd be shocked. But I've heard that many times. Mm-hmm. That the part of the Pentagon that got hit was the part that housed all those because back then, remember, computers were a thing, but they were just really being rolled out commercially, right? So there was a lot of paper records then.
There were, and I think that was was that the Navy intelligence side of the Pentagon? That might have been the Navy intelligence side of the Pentagon. Yeah. But so they have a whole bunch of millions of billions of jillions of dollars that's missing. And I don't know if there's any oversight, but then when do we get the technology? If it exists then, and literally you can fly it with your mind, fantastic.
What does it mean that only? So what does it mean that only a certain fraction of the population has the ability? And for them, it's grueling. Do we have to raise our vibration? Because an ordinary person, if this is truly what's going on. And again, I haven't seen it with my own eyes. I haven't seen any of this with my own eyes. I've seen evidence from inside, like different evidence, not anything like smoking gun, right? So I've just verified aspects of the story that I can say with confidence that what I said is the truth. Absolutely. But I think we'll all be seeing it soon.
Yeah,
whether that's a year or whether that's 5 years, I don't know.
Well, I think if we're going to have a big war, wars always release new hidden technology. We always get new technology out of wars. And if we're going to have a war, I'm assuming I'm assuming they will use some technology in the war that has not been used before. And maybe that's how we get it out into society. If we have stuff like that, it's not running on gasoline.
Well, that's another thing is there was so oh God, I don't even know if I can say it. I don't think I can, unfortunately. But there's this clear nuclear connection right? Like we've heard them talk about it, about the connection between there's some connection between nuclear and UFO sightings, and they're tied together. And we know that like George Knapp has records of in the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union before it fell. These were highly secretive documents that a UFO basically turned off the nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't.
Well, and Robert
We
Salas.
don't really know if those weapons ever came back online.
Right. Well,
We don't. Yeah.
Robert Salas was at one. I think it was the
Yeah.
Montana base, right? Wasn't it in
Right.
Montana where they shut
So-
the nukes off on him?
Yeah, but then also in Ellsworth, that's where Mario Woods was taken at a nuclear, literally a nuclear launch facility, an LFC.
Yeah,
Right.
it really feels like they're trying to say, turn these off, dummies. You've got them all aimed at yourselves while you're still on the earth. Like, what are you doing? And there's a lot of evidence that we've had nuclear weapons in the past, like really ancient past.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I don't know if you watched the most recent episode of Sean Ryan, but Billy Carson went on there, and he did throw up a cool fact or fun fact, like in Mars. There's like we talked about Mars earlier in the show. Apparently, there's traces of this like byproduct of we only know it as a byproduct of nuclear weapons, and that's in the Martian atmosphere. And that the Martian atmosphere also has oxygen. And I mean, if anyone hasn't seen it, I know Billy Carson's a very polarizing figure as well. But I mean, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I really enjoy what Sean Ryan's doing. And I really highly suggest that everybody go watch episode 66 with Michael Herrera before Michael comes on the show next month in February, or February, mid-February.
Yeah, I love.
It's gonna be crazy.
I love Billy Carson too. I really do.
He's so confident in when he speaks. It's hard not to take him seriously. But then you like see like some of the older videos, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, I love it. I love his content. Like you said, his confidence, his delivery. I love Billy Carson. Billy Carson has great content. I like him.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
Like,
yeah.
Did anyone else notice? I want to know if anyone else in the UFO community noticed that Jimmy Church put out an episode today, and it was like it said guest Whitley Strieber, but it was actually like it was William Michaels or William. I forget his last name, but he's on Ancient Aliens a lot. He's a recurring guy on Ancient Aliens. But it wasn't Whitley Strieber, and I was just so confused because I was like, this is the Jimmy Church. Like, I didn't think they made mistakes like that.
Maybe it was a last minute change and they forgot to update. It had to be a last minute change. Jimmy
Like, because
Church,
there's like a big difference between Whitley Strieber and this, William Henry from Ancient Aliens. So I was like, how did this happen?
He must
Jimmy
have
Church
filled
PR team. Yeah. Actually,
like that.
Michael Herrera was on Jimmy Church as well.
Oh.
Now that I think of it, he went on Jimmy Church. So, but yeah, so we're trying to be steady with the Thursday nights. Teresa and I think I've enjoyed doing it. So I think we're going to stick with it. I don't know about you.
I've loved it too. It's really been fun. I'm going to have to wrap up here soon, Ty, but it has been fun.
But we are going to have more on
fun.
We will have more on the story that we just talked about. I'm sure, we'll talk about it next Thursday a little bit too. Some more of the implications, because I think we really do have to like worry about because what if it's not just one species? Because they're calling these craft in and they're bringing them down, right? So what if they're bringing down multiple species? What if one of the species says enough is enough and gives us a backhand? They could end us in literally blink of an eye. And we wouldn't
Well, I
even know
think there's
why.
a lot of
And we,
evidence.
and we
Don't you?
wouldn't even know why. Who gave them? I've been saying this for a long time. Who gave these people, and I've been saying it for so long, who gave these people that are holding this secrecy, whatever it is, even if whatever, whoever the secret holders are, who gave them the right to our past, our present, and our sequel? Right?
Mm.
I didn't sign up for that world. So if you signed up for that world, continue to live in it. But I'm going to continue to make noise.
Right here. Yeah, same here.
So
yeah, there's a lot of evidence for a lot of different species being here, though. I mean, in ancient Egypt, they were obsessed with these giant cat people. Where did that idea even come from? In fact, like actually it is the oldest artifact in the entire world was found in Germany. And we're talking about like from the last ice age. And it is carved into ivory. It is a lion-headed man carved into ivory. Where are they getting those ideas, for these lion? And that went all through ancient Egypt. It's all through India, lion people, cat-headed people. Narasimha is one of the Indian gods. That is the lion, a lion man, a lion god. And he can be very ferocious or he can be very loving. But so he's kind of volatile. But Narasimha is a lion person. Is that something they saw? Is that one of these species that they saw and they're documenting?
Just kind of misinterpreted.
Yeah, and then like the Dogon tribe again, to go back to them. So now to go back to sub-Saharan Africa, one of their gods is Kagan, the praying mantis, the giant praying mantis. And then if you look to modern day UFO abduction literature, people report giant praying mantises. Why does that continue? Why is that a continuous idea?
That's one that's always kind of creeped me out because then we hear about like the mantis being like abductions, and apparently like they're the nice ones.
Yeah, right.
That's what I've heard.
Can you imagine a giant insect? Apparently they're really tall. They're like 7 feet tall. Could you imagine a 7 foot tall insect looking down at you like that? I don't know if I could do that.
No, I would soil myself.
Yeah.
And like, who's to say that they don't have the ability to look like us if they want to, right? I interviewed John Yost a while back. I can't remember what episode number it was. We're hitting 100 this Sunday, so it was maybe in the 50s or 60s. I interviewed John Yost, and he had like a screen memory because the being put it up, he thinks, because it was a mantis being, and it brought him into what he deemed as a cave of some sort. He didn't know if it was on this planet, another planet. He couldn't tell. The sky looked like the sky. It just looked like the sky with all, with the stars in it. But after being regressed, he found out. So at first he saw it as like some superhero from like the 70s. I can't remember which one. Something man. And after being regressed, he found out it was a mantis being. And it scared him like to his core. And John Yost, John Yost is one of the most interesting stories, is encounters, because he was told that he is being prepared for something that's coming.
Wow.
So again, I formulate, there's Michael himself. There's more coming down the pipeline. I promise you. Michael himself. So there's my backup. If anyone wanted to know, that's my backup. But Michael's a very good guy, a very, very patriotic, and David Grush, very patriotic. These guys that are coming forward are very patriotic, and they're going to lead the charge, because, the problem, and Michael, I have been talking, the problem with the camps, like the Lou Elizondo camp and the Greer camp, and I told him I was going to steal this. He's going to laugh. The problem with all these different factions of the UFO community is they each think they're going to be the ones to run the ball into the end zone. But in reality, it's got to be all of us. It's got to be all of us doing it. It can't just be one part. It's got to be all of us. So that's the key.
I like
we
that.
Can't be. We even just as a community, we're factionalized, right? And then it just grows from there. From there, it grows right into country, into region, into country, into religion, into part of the world, into this, that, and the other thing. It's like we were built on factionalism, and the world was built so that we're all pitted against each other. When in reality, we should all step back and take a look in and see that we're all being played. If we work together, if Ben Franklin and Nikola Tesla worked together, imagine what they would have created. Imagine.
I love that. That's a very good way to
We'll
say
leave
it.
you with that. I think we'll leave you there.
That's great. That's a good place to leave off. Yep.
Teresa, where can they find you on social media?
On Instagram, I'm at the Tyndall Review, TINDAL Review. And I'm locked out of my Twitter.
So you're actually like locked out?
Yeah, I'm locked out. And then on Facebook also, I'm the Tyndall Review.
Yes, at Tyndall Review. I'll put it in the description below as well. But I've been, so in each video I've been tagging you anyway. So when you get back into your Twitter, there'll be a bunch of messages. Okay. But for everyone else, you know what it is. If you watch the show on YouTube, we're going to be doing this. This is only like our second week in a row doing it consistently. The third, well, no, I'd say second, because it's our second Thursday in a row. We're going to be on Thursday night. Yeah. So I really just want to say that this is only going to grow. We're going to be doing this kind of stuff every Thursday with just the news, and then the podcast will stay separate. Those are the one-on-one conversations. And sometimes I'm going to bring Teresa in because I think she's an asset. I think you're super smart, and the rising tide lifts all the ships, and I can't wait to get back, because back in the Pop Culture Corner days, we used to have like 100 people watching at a time. It was so fun and energetic, engaging in the comments. I see that someone left a super chat. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. But Mike also left one more thing saying spot on. Publics to hold the government accountable, and the government, at least the good people, can gain knowledge of these illegal and unconstitutional programs.
Yeah, Michael. Yes.
Like
absolutely. We need our really patriotic guys who want to do the right thing right now more than ever. And thank you for being brave enough. And
coming forward.
Being brave enough to step forward. And thank you for that. We salute you. We're grateful.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll leave it on that. Guys, make sure to like, share, subscribe. And then if you do listen to the podcast, it's on all major podcast platforms. If you leave a review on Apple, a written review and then a star rating, it really helps. And then on Spotify, they just do the star rating. Do that. And if you want to help support the show, you know what it is. Hit the join button. Pay what you want. Everyone gets the same thing. And all that's in the links in the description below. I hope you had a good time tonight. We'll be back next Thursday, same time, same freaking place. So I didn't have the outro ready, so I tried to stretch it out, but it didn't work. Bye, guys.